Hey guys, and welcome back to Span TV. We have talked a lot about Synology's 2020 event in Taiwan and then Berlin. We've covered all the highlights, the lowlights, and gone into more and more detail about what they've got in store for us at the end of 2019 and 2020. However, what we want to talk about today is effectively what we thought were our highlights. We're going to go through what we liked, what we didn't, and more importantly, your questions from that previous video where I asked you about your requests for that event and what you wanted them to tell you. So, Eddie, straight off the bat, what was the first thing you loved the most about what you saw at Synology 2020?
Probably on the top one would be straight away Synology photos, because they're replacing the old DS photos and moments applications. So they just merge into one because it was so annoying, and so many people got annoyed with the necessity to not just move pictures to the moments but copy them, because you still want to use both this geolocation, you want
all of those tools that Photo-Station had, yeah.
So yeah, it was like split into two halves, like something was in the Photo-Station, something was in Moments, and now they're finally going to merge everything into one, so you're going to have this smart photos, like face recognition, object recognition on areas, and also you can have this GEO tagging and stuff like that. So this all in one app. This is definitely the best thing what I saw there.
See, I mean, I liked it, and I would definitely not say it was one of my low points there. But what I would say is, I'm hoping they give people folder access. And they said, they did their little demonstration with the video thing. It was really cool.
I think
but they said manage folders, you know, and you can sort of manage folders in Photo-Station in that kind of create it in the after process in Photo-Station. And I will be very, very happy with Synology Photos if they include browse by folders. It's just one option I want, but I also know it's something a load of people want when they first go into Photo-Station or Moments. The cataloguing and index system does not feel intuitive. It's very much do it our way. And if it still has that in Synology Photos, for me, that will be a calling point. But apart from that, I love that they've merged it, because I was a big fan of Moments, but you're right, you couldn't browse in a very...
Exactly, because so often you want to just see, filter down pictures by the country, because I do travel a lot and I just want to see, like, oh, what did I do in Germany? So I just could click, okay, show me all German pictures. That was so useful. In Moments, there's such a collection didn't exist.
Well, they had locational data and stuff like that, but it wasn't in a very. It was very much a kind of here's all the information, and then you had.
You can't just have the map and then zoom into the map.
For me, I've got my notes down here. The Ssd Caching. Now I've purposely not really talked about this much on either YouTube channels, NAS Compares or Span.com, because it's such a big thing in DSM-7 that it's bigger than most of the stuff I've written and filmed so far. They're changing the way they deal with cache, with inline data compression and smart metadata locking, and just the way they're pinning that data so that they've introduced caching in a much bigger way in a number of their solutions. They're now looking at the way metadata is handled and the way users have data that needs caching metadata behind it. So if you've got applications, for example, that need certain metadata and caching in place, but not with the same frequency as other file access, you run the risk that data will be deleted because of insufficient ruling on how long data is kept within caching. And the fact that they've included that in this newer version with these better techniques of caching and 64 kilobit block sizing, I think that's something for me that I was quite interested in at this event. The one thing I would argue against is it going to be something that's just going to be in DSM-7, so people have to wait for this new version of DSM, or is this going to be another one of those granular, smaller features that gets rolled into 6.2 in the interim?
Don't know.
But which again, okay, so another high point from you.
Yeah, the next time, Mac support, finally. You can do hyper backup or drive on the Mac, which people have been asking for years already. So it's been quite a while.
Active backup sync, having that, and drive as well, having this new functionality next year.
Because they have this basic support for drive on the Mac, but you can't do any things like choosing like what is going to be in the cloud, what's going to be on the
on-demand streaming, yeah.
So you can't choose those things, but now things will change, and it's going to come out early next year, they were promising.
And the idea that they've rolled in Active Backup as well, Active Backup Suite, for those that have ever used it, it is an enterprise level, quite expensive piece of software that another company might give you and charge you for, and they've rolled it in with the Synology NAS purchase.
Exactly, because normally you would pay for such service. Like this is almost like an image backup. You don't need any more almost Time Machine or Windows built-in ISO backups. You just do that with hyper backups. So it's like you have image of your computer, so you can recover from that. It's really amazing stuff.
But when Active Backup rolls in and includes Mac support as well, you're now going to have, with this one program, Active Backup Suite, an enormous tool for managing image backups of all of your devices, be they PC, Mac, NAS, Linux, PC or server, a whole host of devices. So it's that you're right. That was the fact that Mac point, given that Synology has a huge Mac interest point, I'm amazed it took them this long. And I can only imagine it was something on the other side of the fence.
They definitely had to convince Mac people, Apple people, to give this permission, because this is a actually major step. Because eventually, basically, Mac will be giving up their Time Machine by giving them permission to do image backup. They are risking to lose their Time Machine sort of market, because they're selling their time capsules and stuff like that. They're potentially risking to lose.
That's
the market
a market
share.
that's fallen apart, and I think that file pinning and file on-demand streaming is something. The reason they got it with Windows devices so well and so early in that beta, and I think maybe even a fleshed-out version now for the client, is because they worked with Microsoft. So Microsoft, who were providing that with, I think, their cloud backup, their OneDrive, they were able to pull that over, which is pretty good. Another area, and it's something I never got to see in the flesh, if I'm honest, the DS1620XS. Like of all the NASs that was there, no one saw that coming. That was a real left field move. And again, I do think that's a next year NAS. I do think that's a next year NAS. I hope it isn't, but I think it is going to be a next year NAS. You're talking that quad-core Xeon, you're talking DDR4, you're talking NVMe SSD cache, you're talking PCIe expandability, you're talking 5 years of warranty, and then you've got 2.5 GBE ports, 4 of them on the rear.
Yeah. The idea was good, but they just messed it up a bit, because everyone has been begging Synology for some sort of 4K solution of like 8 bays or so, and they kind of delivered it, but with Xeon CPU, it doesn't have transcoding engine built in, so it's purely really for virtual machines and like large-scale enterprise sort of.
It would still work within Plex and transcode very well. It would just use raw power. Yeah,
it would cope with 4K. Yeah, I'm not saying it wouldn't, but one stream at a time, people wouldn't want that.
But again, sorry, because we have to look at both sides of the coin here. As much as I'm really looking forward to that NAS and having it here in the studio and showing you guys about it, there's no denying it that it's a 6-bay. With that Xeon CPU, with that transcoding, and it's probably going to arrive at a staggering price point. Because if you look at the DS3018XS, that thing went for about $1,200 to $1,500, depending on the tax you pay in your country. And that was a 6-bay that doesn't have a lot of the features of this. So I think we're looking at $2,000 for this device, maybe.
Because I would be even happy if they did i7, even i5, some 6
gens. I still don't get that.
Just do that, you know, it's cheap.
I know one of the questions we have here from YouTube is around that sort of subject. Let's not tread on those toes.
Because that's the thing, they need to start using i-core CPUs in their NASs. That's what QNAP is doing, and everyone else, Asus Store now doing, they're just like resisting, like, no, we're not going to do it because we are Xeon people.
I'll be honest, you're ruining CE's question from a week ago. But the last point, of course, DSM-7. We've barely talked about DSM-7. DSM-7, we finally got to get our hands on it and play with it, although we were using a VM, it has to be said, of it, with virtual DSM. One, stupidly fast. I really, really hope it's that quick when it's officially available or in beta. Looks cleaner. The windows and stuff open so fast. Again, VM, so we won't hold too much judgment on that. And of course, the redesigned resource monitor, the task manager there in the background. Storage manager's been cleaned up a little bit. Lends a little bit to the QNAP design, if I'm honest.
A bit more detailed, yeah. A bit more to play around, yeah.
But
to look at.
But DSM does look very, very good. It does look like a big, big jump over its predecessor. That has to be said. But availability and when it's going to arrive, because we've waited quite a long time now.
They're promising next year, early.
DSM-7 was revealed last year, this time last year.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a long time. That is a long, long time. Don't get me wrong, it's nice that people know it's coming. But to have already waited a year and then be told it's coming in early Jan, not great. Even a bit. I understand it, and they must still be working on it, and there must be reasons for that. I know they've working on a different is it not plug-in? What's the thing I'm thinking of with the design in the background? The socket that they're using for this, that when it runs in your browser, try and keep it as local feeling as possible. And it was really, really impressive, but I was a little down by still no real solid release date for it. It's been a real long time for that, you know.
Yeah, that's the way they do.
Which leads us on to the negatives. Well, by negatives, that's a hell of a strong word. Let's talk about the things that we saw and we were kind of, or in some cases, what we didn't see. Let's say it all together. Where the hell is the DS220, 720 and 920 Plus? Where the hell are they? Where's the DS3620 XS? Where are they? Because people have been waiting now. A lot of these.
I think didn't want to show all weapons they got in one go, because they did reveal 4 things. And
yes, they did, didn't they?
It's quite a lot of things they did reveal. But
I mean,
they were not the strongest ones.
I mean, there's lots of talk flying around about the new Diskstation NASes to do with CPU availability and them utilising the Gemini Lake processors inside these new iteration. But again, still not 100% confirmed about that, so I'm not really going to divulge too much into that. But you can research around the internet and Reddit and stuff, and you can read more about that, what certain reps have said around the place. But I think it's kind of annoying for a lot of users going into this part of the year that have gone, right, I'm thinking of buying a new NAS, and they were like, oh, I've heard lots of nice things about this 918 Plus. When did it come out? 2 years ago. All right, I'll go for the 218 Plus. When did it come out? 2 years ago.
There was a strange release for annual event to release these J series, because that wasn't really their target sort of this sort of people, because these J series usually displayed some PC World and something like that, starting sort of point for people in the NAS market, but not those people. Those people were business people who wanted to expect the Plus series, XS series, and released. They did one. I
thought for an event to have those there. Don't get me wrong. I know they're trying to target a lot of business users at the moment, but I would be lying if when I saw a DS120J and a 420J, which were moderate upgrades at best over their current generations, it reeked a bit of compromise, and it reeked a little bit of rush. Like the 120J is the upgrade to the 119J released 1 year ago today, and it's got the same CPU and twice as much memory at 512 megabytes, which, let's be honest,
right? But still, that's a new CPU, because that if you want to explore hardware side, then you don't look really at Synology in general. You zoom in into CPU, and you need to do research, because every single iteration for the new CPUs coming out, there are changes. They are more power efficient.
They're very small.
Slowly, but they do get more and you can do more with the same weak hardware. So it's pretty amazing. So they are evolving. It looks like when you look at the same CPU, still the same atom, but when you go deeper in logs and statistics, you will see that you can actually do slightly bit more. Maybe not much, but still more. And you'll be saving more energy.
But the 119J was the follow-up to the 115J behind it, and there was a 4 to 5 year wait period on that. That was last year. And then not even a year later, they've announced a successor, which seems almost identical, but they've doubled the memory, which again, to me, says either we made a bit of a screw up on the memory there, or they've thought, oh, this isn't going to run the newest version of Synology's DSM, streamlined version for that NAS, and we've had to sort of add and retcon that a little bit.
It's absolute minimum. Is this CPU?
Now, the one area that we talked about even before just recording this video, the RS820, the RS1220 Plus, these newer generation, and by the way, I'm going to crack them out, newer generation, it's exactly the same device, but the 3000 series Atom CPU, not the 2000 series. And they've been released quite close to their predecessors again, which again leads me back to that point about compromise. Now, they might be announcing these and not releasing these until way into 2020, and just announcing and showing them, right? So we've got two ways to look at this. One, they've released two successors to these rack mount NASes, strangely close to the predecessor, or they've announced them and showed them to you, even though they're not going to come out for a very long time. Which then begs the question, why? What was supposed to be on the tables that wasn't there?
No, because the deadline is June next year to release these things. If they don't release, they're going to scrap them and release something new. It could be something to just...
I hope so. Because, I mean, the last point is to do with when we hear about something that doesn't happen, or when we hear about something that slowly gets quieter and quieter and quieter and quieter. And that is to do with the smart drive stuff, right? Now, that was announced last year.
Last year, that was a big thing.
Yeah, it was huge. And that was damn interesting too.
Exactly, and they were saying there's tests being done and it's going to come out very soon because it's proven working. And this year, they didn't talk about it. They showed it on the slides.
They talked about it. They talked about it a little.
Yeah, it's like, oh, okay, get out of the way. Yeah. Move forward.
But it was such a big part of it. For those that aren't aware, the idea is that you have a bunch of drives in a NAS. You can have a hot spare. It's ideal if you do. But you have like a 6-bay or something. You fill it with 6 drives. You put 5 drives in a RAID. The system is monitoring those drives in a far more proactive way than previously, and it will notice small, tiny indications that one of those drives may fail. These aren't the usual things, like when there's a drive's fallen over, red light, and the disk isn't spinning. Little tiny temperature and vibration things, based on a huge body of information that Synology required on drives' behaviour over time. And then, when it sees that drive is indicating so many signs of a problem, you can set it up that it automatically swaps in the hot spare, which then, before it does that, it mirrors the drive that's starting to show signs of problems, mirrors it with the hot spare, and then swaps them over. Therefore, incredibly reducing RAID rebuild time, because it just...
Well, there's no rebuild time, because that's just new drive.
It will just power down, it will presumably power down the device, and then tell itself when it boots up to go for the other drive. As if it's exactly the same thing.
Zero rebuild time.
Now, that was an enormous deal, and the fact that it wasn't really featured at the event was kind of disappointing to me. Yeah. I kind of thought that would come up.
Oh yeah, I was expecting it's finally that's it, that you're going to have it, because we were promising our viewers and customers.
It's been alluded to as well over the last year or so, and again, it's going to be something in DSM-7 from what they're saying, but they didn't talk about it anywhere near enough. And when they announced it, they were one of the only brands that was promising something like that. And now, a year later, 2, potentially 3 brands now are talking about the same thing. So now it's no longer this unique selling point. It's becoming who can get there first.
Space race.
Like QNAP and Ulink and stuff like that, because that's a game changer of a feature. But we'll stop talking about the event and talk about the questions that you guys presented to me in an earlier video about 2 weeks ago, when I asked you to give me questions to find out about at this event. And here are, I think, 10 questions, and I'm going to try to get the names right, so we are going to butcher the pronunciation here. First one's a biggie. Mark Devertsvitz. Cool name, bruh. Are they considering using NVMe SSDs for storage, not cache, in a future NAS? Now, you go a little bit more into the question then. I'm sure it's splashing here on screen. But long and story short, we did ask them that, and no. That was kind of the long and short of that when I sat down with a little one-to-one. The NVMEs, they're only seen as caching at this time. And this shouldn't come as a huge surprise, given that Synology does not feature 10 GBE, a huge amount. And NVMe being used as a primary storage tool, there are no plans for it at this time, from what we're told. Again, I wasn't too chuffed about that, if I'm honest.
It's very silly. They should learn from QNAP, because this is a big deciding factor for video editors, because they do actually actively use this, not cache, but NVMe turned into a storage space or volume where they can add it from.
And then mirror it with the hard drives as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So I hope that answers your question a little bit. I know it's damn disappointing, but still. Next, the question that Eddie sort of ruined. CE, when will they start competing with QNAP in terms of hardware power? Everything Synology releases is old and stale, bit harsh. CPU generations, network interfaces that come as standard, etc.
It's not quite true. They do release all these Atom ridiculous CPUs they put in, but they're still the latest releases. They're not really old CPUs.
I think that's an area of contention depending on where your position in the market is. What I would say is, your question was, when will they start competing with QNAP in terms of hardware power? Well, they won't. They don't. They're not.
Eventually they will.
They're not going to. They don't actively try. They will not. I don't think Synology will ever, regardless of the market, actively try to compete on a hardware level with QNAP. What they will do is they will go, right, we will do this, 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 we see the value in this, 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 and we will do this, this, this. Very rarely will they look at QNAP and go, oh, they're doing that, we should do that.
Yeah, usually,
I can't see that on a hardware level, I just can't see it.
Yeah, usually QNAP is copying Synology and making things better.
Full disclosure, I didn't ask this question verbatim to Patrick when we were in Berlin, but we asked a question not dissimilar to this several times of, QNAP have got this, are you going to have this? QNAP have done this, are you going to do this? When are you going to do this like QNAP? And there's another question like that. And every single time they make it clear their priority is the software and the fluidity of their platform, and they are not going to try to compete on a hardware level.
Because their software is built around these Xeon or these Atom CPUs.
Yeah.
So if they will suddenly just introduce like some, different like Intel Core or something CPU, they probably need to rewrite lots of software.
Yeah, it would be great if they did that, but yeah, there's a lot of reasons why they wouldn't. Next up, Ka-Leng Lee. I'm really sorry if I butchered your name there. When will DSM-7 be ready for public? Well, we're being told January, but they were very, very keen to not...
beta.
Yeah,
probably.
they weren't keen to highlight whether it was a beta or not, which to us, yeah, it means it's a beta. They're definitely not going to roll out that DSM in one single go. They're not. It's not going to be a full release straight away. So look out for it January, February. My money's on February, if I'm honest. I think they'll release it in February. They'll get through January. There'll just be too much stuff going on as it is. I think February we'll see that DSM. But all we were being told was the beginning of 2020. And that was by everyone we spoke to, Taiwan and Berlin. Next, Chris Cardwell. You asked 2 questions. Cheat. What is the minimum NAS processor that can deliver 10 gigabit Ethernet performance? That's an ambiguous question. Performance, do you mean optimal performance or just performing? Because
I think what he means to 10 gigabit is like around 1,000.
So I want 1,000, yeah.
megs a second.
Just
So that would be any Pentium-based CPU.
Yeah. I think,
and also like Atoms as well, to be honest, because
yeah,
1819 they can actually achieve.
I think the 1819 you would get that, but of course it does also depend on your media. Your media. Yeah, I think you'd have to, I think the Atoms would do it with the right media inside, and you'd have to go for at least the 6 bay, because I think to get the RAID on some mechanical hard drive, obviously if you use SSDs, different story, but I do think minimum processor, you're right, the Atom C33538, that's probably where you want to go. Next, when will this become standard in their J series or above? Happy to wait a couple more years for the enhanced products. You are going to be waiting for a long time, unfortunately. I cannot see 10 GBE becoming a standard connection on a J. I think at best, 5 years from now, you might see those 2.5s. Yeah. I mean, we didn't ask this primarily. We said, when do you think 10 GBE will be standard? And as far as they're concerned, they don't ever see a point when 10 GBE will be standard.
Yeah. Said that.
And that's kind of the big disappointment there, because we think, I mean, looking at Wi-Fi 6, there's a question about that as well. With the new, standard of Wi-Fi, Netgear have already jumped onto it with their new routers, and we are hearing whispers about a new router as well from Synology. But
that could be a deciding pushing factor for them to implement at least 5 gig, because 5G internet is already is out there already available, and there's the Wi-Fi 6 Wi-Fi routers out there available now as well, which is already, all this is faster than freaking RJ45, connection
to put it into perspective. How long has the Netgear Nighthawk been around? It's been a few years. That had an SFP 10 GBE port built into it, and it had that crazy Wi-Fi, So it's been around for a while. We don't know why they're not hopping on it, but you're never going to see it on a J or an SE. I don't think you ever will. But at that point, they won't even exist.
Because then people will be asking, like, where are adapters? Because we don't want these NASs with gigabit ports on it. I'd rather put my USB adapter in the NAS and transmit data that way, because it's faster than your freaking Ethernet port.
Ka-Leng Lee, next question. You had 2 questions. Will Synology be releasing another router that supports SIM cards? My current broadband plan is in the part of the world which uses a SIM card. Would love to get one if Synology has it. No.
No, but you can buy an adapter and plug it in and use that as a combination of those two. You can turn it into a SIM-based router if you want.
I kind of wish I had my bag here, because when I was in Germany and Taiwan and all the places I've been in the last year or so, I actually carry a 4G router around with me, a Netgear M1. I do recommend you try that, but I don't think there'll ever be a Synology
Built-in,
alternative.
no.
We asked them, would you ever have not this show, we asked them UK last year, would they ever go down the road of a SIM card, and they just said no, because unless they can ever provide their own cell coverage, they're not going to do that.
Yeah.
But no, unfortunately not, no. Next, Tom B, this is a good one. I know Eddie already asked this question. There you go, that's a shout out to you. Where is my Intel Ice Lake CPU NAS? Ages away, unfortunately. So I think Synology, we're going to be lucky to see Gemini Lake become a standard. i7s and stuff like that are just not going to happen. We're going to see more Pentiums, more Xeons. How many Xeons did we see in those enterprise level units? We saw some great, those Intel Silvers as well.
What we can do is hope that Intel is actually creating Xeon CPU with hardware transcoding engines, and that would be great.
Well, a lot
they could.
The Ice Lake is a particularly interesting CPU, just because, and unfortunately, it's going to be a QNAP. A QNAP is going to be the first. Maybe an Acer store, but it's almost certainly going to be a QNAP that has that, unfortunately. Yeah. Moving on to the next set of questions. Right, Robert Mushao, solid forename by the way. When will HDMI become available as a standard capability? Now, I already addressed this in the comments, I believe, but I'm going to address it here again. We ask this question a lot. Not directly, we do it by accident half the time. Synology do not want HDMI out.
Only on surveillance, that's it.
Right, and you say that, for those of you that saw my DVA 3219 video, you'll know that, and also the NAS Compare article, we dismantled the unit a little bit and got the GPU card out of it. And on the rear of the GPU card is DVI and HDMI out. And I think even DisplayPort too. And they've just closed it. No, we are not open for business. They are not interested in HDMI out because they only want network and internet connectivity for their platform. And the idea of shifting focus to this whole other area of access to their devices requires a substantial amount of R&D, they tell us. And they're more interested in plowing that time and energy into what they think people want and what they hear people want, so they tell us. So they include HDMI in the surveillance NAS because a lot of people want HDMI out and keyboard KVM. That's standalone surveillance solution, so they give you that option. But even then, the HDMI out you get on that device is fantastically rudimentary compared to a lot of other brands.
But anyway, yeah, why do you need HDMI? You're just limiting yourself to this one connection.
Disagree 100%. But I won't. That's a debate for another video. But yeah. No, I disagree 100% on that. Yeah, but anyway, next. Good. You disagree to disagree. That's not a thing. Next, playback. Where is the DS920 Plus? Well, again, we have already talked about this a little in the video, but let's quickly summarise that. We've still got no confirmation on a new Diskstation Plus Series 20 bay, 2 bays with the expandable and that 4 bay, or a Play Series one. And I think a lot of that is to do with the availability of the Gemini Lake CPU from Intel. But there may be more to it than that, so don't take me at gospel on that one because it's still yet to be confirmed. I hope that helps. Next. A question on SRM threat prevention. Are we going to get the capability of exporting events for purpose of archiving, manipulation and analysis? Well, you can pull logs from those devices, from the MR2200 AC. I did it personally when I was doing my coverage of testing the strengths of all those different mesh Wi-Fi routers, but it was so rudimentary and so borderline useless to show on camera. That's why I didn't end up using it. I used like an Android app. I can't remember which one it was actually. It was on the video. They say, when I asked them about this, they say you can pull the existing logs, and I kept highlighting that it's not presented in a very analytical fashion in the same way that we've seen on the DVA that I'm testing here in the background. The information from the DVA that can be pulled is so much better and so much more forensic and chart-based and readable. So they've got no designs at this time to upgrade SRM to incorporate a better log system from what I understand, because they're shifting a lot of their focus toward this greater density of Wi-Fi coverage. And I think a lot of R&D is going into SRM alongside some sort of mystery router that might be happening in the background there. If I missed anything on that question, I think I covered it pretty well. Thank you very much. You're looking at me like, oh, you've forgotten the big thing. Next. William Baldwin, solid name. Really, I'm looking for an updated 2-bay NAS from Synology. More RAM and a better quad core, please. When? Same thing. We're still waiting on confirmation of those devices. We're still waiting on if it's going to have the new Intels. And I still believe they were supposed to be shown at this event.
They didn't make it ready.
A little while ago in Taiwan, we were looking at the Synology Solution Exhibition. The eagle-eyed of you will know that they showed a little slide for the the DS220 Plus, and then they removed it after a day or two because I think they realised, oh no, we can't unveil that yet. So it exists. We know these things exist, but for some reason they're not being released at this time, which is a real disappointment to a number of us. And I really hope they still get these items to land before the end of the year, because I know a number of you are going, well, I'm not buying the old gen. I can't see the new gen. So I have money to burn. Am I going to buy a QNAP or an Acer Store or a TerraMaster or something in the meantime? And I think Synology would do very, very well to address this in the middle, this issue.
I'm sure they'll be available to buy by January at least.
We might get November, December, maybe.
They might.
They've done a turnaround. They've done a turnaround before. Maybe they'll release it with one kind of CPU and then release like a 2 version next year. They've done it before with the
they don't
versions
want to
on
repeat
CPUs.
the same mistake. That might be the reason why they removed those.
It did cause a kind of a lot of people were kind of curious about what was the difference between them. You have to explain time and time again. Finally, Anders Anderson, solid name. These are some great names, guys. I want to see Synology come out with a new Wi-Fi router that supports 802.11x or AX. Maybe something with multi-gigabit support. So do we. We want that too. And every time we address this question, because we asked 2 different people about this, and when we spoke to them, they kept talking in a way that was like, what have you heard? This is what I mean about another router floating around. There's definitely something happening about a new kind of router.
Must be, because with router they want to be market leaders right now. Because they were the first ones who released this VPS3 encryption, and they won't be first in the more Wi-Fi 6 router, but they might still get on that wave.
And SRM 1.2.3 does have increased analytical abilities to address the other question as well, nowhere near to the standard that you were asking about, unfortunately, alongside a bunch of other updates. And they were keen to highlight and promote their MR2200AC in line with SRM 1.2.3. So easy to remember. But I would hold fire, because even if they do announce a new router at an event soon, they've got a real history of waiting a long old time to release their routers. The RT1900AC, the RT2600AC, and the mesh routers were all revealed and took almost a year to reach the shelves.
Yeah, because also you need to go through this certification, because it's like radio frequencies.
Absolutely,
It's
yeah.
not that easy process to do that.
But no, those are the main questions we got in that previous video to ask Synology on your behalf. But we're going to wrap things up now, because this has been a hell of a long video for you guys, and I hope a lot of you stayed to the end. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the coverage. Next week, we're going to be looking at Synology's UK launch event. And again, we're not going to try and double up on too much stuff, so when we do focus there, we will talk about the event, but we'll try not to tell you stuff that we've already told you a dozen times or more. Eddie, have I forgotten anything?
No.
Excellent, good to know. We'll see you on the next video. Click like, subscribe and the bell to be notified about new videos. Cheerio.